Island Sail Shop. I want to talk a little bit about the difference between the two foil lines that Cabrinha has. We have the X series and we have the H series foils. Two different foils kind of for different purposes. We've got one that's very high aspect and one that's very low aspect. So what's going to be better for you, and what does that really do in these foils? So I think as most people know, a higher aspect foil is more efficient. Think of a glider plane versus like a fighter jet with a short wingspan. So low aspect is going to turn a little bit more, but be a lot less efficient and quite a bit more drag for the amount of lift that you get. Where this is going to be a lot more efficient. It's going to pump better. It's not going to turn quite as sharp, but it's going to be faster and create a lot more lift for the amount of drag that you have. So higher aspect foils, I would say generally for surfing, for pumping, and specifically for winging. Wings are fairly inefficient compared to a kite, where you can't, create a whole lot of power in the wind window with a wing that you can with a kite. So you need that super efficient foil, so a high aspect wing. For kite foiling, or something where actually drag can make it a little bit easier to use and help control that power, a lower aspect wing like this can be a little bit easier and better in a lot of cases. So first, let's talk about the high aspect in a little more detail. This is the 800. This is actually the highest aspect wing out of the H series wings from Cabrinha. As you go up into the 1000, this is the H series 1000. The wingspan for the foil is actually the same, and that extra surface area comes from the cord getting a little bit bigger. And the reason they did that is they went bigger with the wing is if you go just longer and longer, all of a sudden this wingspan gets so big it becomes a little bit prohibitive. In your turns, the wingtips are going to stick out of the water easier and becomes harder to manage. So as you go smaller size, they become a little bit higher aspect. The 1000 is still a very high aspect foil, but not quite as high aspect as the 800. We also make a 1200. That's going to be slightly lower aspect than this 1000. And then we have a 650, a size smaller than this. But on that one, the wingspan comes in a little bit, and the aspect ratio, that length to width, is not quite as extreme on this 800. So this 800 is really maybe the most efficient wing we have. It's going to create the most amount of lift for the very little amount of drag that it has, making it a great wing for winging. I would say for myself, spending a little bit more time winging, it's a great foil even in very light wind conditions. You'll be amazed by how much lift a foil like this has and how little drag it has. So it works great in light wind. For myself, I almost don't need this 1000. This is almost like my light wind weapon right here. This 800 is a very good all-around wing for me. I'll drop down to the next size down, that 650. I would say in really high winds, or if I'm getting into bigger waves where I don't want as much lift and I still want a lot of speed. I think for a lot of people that are just getting into winging, the 1200 and the 1000 are going to be our two key sizes. Again, I think these are very lifty profiles for the size, even compared to other high aspect wings. There's quite a lot of camber in the back of them, or in the bottom of the wing, which creates a lot of lift. And if you're coming off a lower aspect wing, don't be afraid of the size. Don't think, man, I ride a 1500 or 1600 right now. 1000 just seems crazy small. I really encourage you to try it out, because I think you might be surprised by how much lift it has and how much easier it is to use than you expect. So those are the high aspect wings. The largest one at 1200, the smallest one at 650. And I would say they're really more wing oriented, except for that 650. That's a great crossover kite wing in my opinion. When we come to our X series wings, I did not screw that mast on because I was lazy. When we come to our X series wings, we have a 950 as the smallest, and we have a 1950 as the largest, 1600 in my hands right here. But these are actually kind of the inverse of the H series wings. The H series, as they get smaller, they get higher aspect. The X series, as they get smaller, they get lower aspect. So these smaller ones, in my opinion, are going to be a little bit better of a kite wing again, where these bigger ones, they go higher aspect and make them even more efficient as that size gets bigger. So the 1600, or especially the 1950, is going to be a lot of wing to kite with. It's going to be a lot of lift, a lot to handle. But for winging in super light wind, or for a beginner, they do go a little higher aspect, so a little more efficient. So they're really, really great light wind or beginner winging wings. They're just very easy, very stable, and they have a ton of lift. I think for more performance as you progress, you really might want to update or think about updating to that H series wing. It works with the same system, the same mass, the same tail wing, so you just switch out that front wing and really have a changed ride there. So X series, these are our original X series. Keep a lookout for these. I know Hatteras Island Sail Shop has been, I think selling quite a lot of the 1950, especially to beginners and people looking for that just best light wind wing. And then the 1000, I would say, again, is a key size from the H series. So that is the Cabrinha X series and H series wing. Check them out here at Hatteras Island Sail Shop.